The terminal buzzed with the usual mix of rolling suitcases, boarding announcements, and hurried conversations. Daniel Hayes adjusted the strap of his worn leather bag while keeping one eye on his 7-year-old daughter, Lily, who sat nearby coloring quietly in a notebook. It had taken years of sacrifice to reach this moment. Every extra shift, every sleepless night, every difficult decision had led him back to an airport, only this time, he wasn't just another passenger. He was reporting for the final interview of his dream job. Daniel had once been considered one of the most gifted test pilots in military aviation. Flying wasn't simply a profession to him, it was the language he understood better than anything else. But after losing his wife in a tragic accident and becoming the sole parent of Lily, he stepped away from the cockpit. He chose diapers over deployments, school pickups over airshows, and bedtime stories over prestigious contracts. While others advanced their careers, Daniel quietly rebuilt his life around the little girl who depended on him. Now, after years away from professional aviation, a private aerospace company had invited him to compete for the position of chief test pilot. It was an opportunity many believed impossible for someone with such a long career gap. Daniel wasn't worried about flying. He was worried about convincing strangers that his years as a father had made him stronger, not weaker. As he entered the executive lounge, conversations softened. Expensive suits filled the room. Most candidates looked polished and confident. Daniel's simple jacket and old duffel bag made him seem out of place. At the center stood the company's CEO, Richard Sterling, a billionaire famous for his brilliant business instincts and equally famous arrogance. Sterling glanced at Daniel's resume, then looked him up and down with obvious disappointment. "So," Sterling said loudly enough for everyone to hear, "you're the pilot who disappeared for almost 8 years." Daniel nodded calmly. "I raised my daughter." A few people smiled politely, but Sterling laughed. "We build the fastest aircraft on Earth, Mr. Hayes. This isn't a parenting competition." Daniel remained silent. Sterling tossed the resume onto the table. "Tell you what. Fly our newest prototype. If you can actually get it into the air without embarrassing yourself, then we'll talk." The room erupted in awkward laughter. Daniel simply picked up the file, thanked him, and walked toward the hangar. He had heard worse before. Years ago, instructors doubted him because he came from a poor family. Later, fellow officers questioned whether he could balance family and flying. Every time someone underestimated him, he let his actions answer instead of his words. Outside, sunlight reflected off the sleek experimental jet waiting on the runway. Engineers surrounded it, making final checks. Even experienced pilots whispered about its unpredictable flight controls. 2 previous test flights had ended early because neither pilot felt comfortable pushing the aircraft to its limits. Daniel slowly walked around the jet, running his hand along the wing. He wasn't admiring it. He was listening. Every aircraft had a personality. Years of experience had taught him that small details often revealed hidden problems. He noticed tiny scratches near one inspection panel, an unusual hydraulic smell, and a faint vibration coming from an auxiliary system. One engineer approached. "Everything okay?" Daniel smiled. "Has the left stabilizer actuator been replaced recently?" The engineer blinked. "Yes, yesterday." "How did you know?" Daniel pointed toward nearly invisible tool marks. "It wasn't calibrated properly." The engineer immediately checked the maintenance records. Daniel was right. Within minutes, technicians confirmed a minor alignment issue that computers had failed to detect. The entire maintenance crew exchanged nervous looks. Inside the observation room, Richard Sterling folded his arms. "Pure luck," he muttered. The repair took 20 minutes. Then Daniel climbed into the cockpit. As the canopy closed, the noisy world outside disappeared. His breathing slowed. The cockpit felt familiar, almost like returning home after many years away. He completed every checklist carefully, never rushing a single step. Tower clearance came through. The engines roared to life. Lily watched from behind the viewing window, clutching a small stuffed rabbit. She had never seen her father fly before. The jet began rolling toward the runway. Sterling leaned toward another executive. "This won't last 5 minutes." Daniel pushed the throttles forward. The aircraft surged ahead with breathtaking acceleration. Within seconds, the nose lifted gracefully into the morning sky. The crowd watched in stunned silence as the jet climbed higher, smoother, and more confidently than anyone had expected. As the jet climbed through the clouds, every eye in the control room remained fixed on the live telemetry screens. Engineers exchanged nervous glances, expecting warning alarms to appear at any moment. This prototype had a reputation for being unpredictable. Even experienced pilots had returned early after struggling with its sensitive controls. Yet Daniel Hayes flew with remarkable composure, making every movement smooth and deliberate, as though the aircraft had been designed specifically for him. Approaching the high-speed test zone, one flight engineer whispered. Richard Sterling folded his arms confidently. "Let's see how long that confidence lasts." High above the ground, Daniel studied every instrument. The repaired stabilizer responded perfectly, but another reading caught his attention. A tiny fluctuation in hydraulic pressure appeared for only a fraction of a second before disappearing again. Most pilots would have ignored it. Daniel didn't. Years as a military test pilot had taught him that aircraft always whispered before they screamed. He requested permission to perform a series of diagnostic maneuvers. The engineers approved. As Daniel gently rolled the aircraft and increased speed, the pressure fluctuation returned, this time lasting slightly longer. He remained calm, carefully recording every response while keeping complete control of the jet. Back in the control room, the engineering team stared in disbelief. Isolating the problem in real time, one senior engineer said. "None of us noticed that during the previous flights." Daniel's voice came over the radio. "I recommend grounding this aircraft after landing. There's a hydraulic synchronization fault developing in the secondary control circuit. It isn't dangerous yet, but it will become critical under higher stress." The room fell silent. Engineers immediately compared his observations with live sensor data. Within minutes, they confirmed he was absolutely correct. A hidden manufacturing defect had escaped months of testing. Richard Sterling's confident smile disappeared. Had the aircraft continued flying under maximum stress, the defect could eventually have caused catastrophic failure. Daniel wasn't just flying the jet. He had potentially saved the entire program. After completing every required maneuver, Daniel guided the aircraft into a perfect landing.